I'm out here today just checking out a few resources, seeing what we've got going on. I'm going to do a little bit of a video on some primitive fire making, do a bow drill video here. And what I wanted to do is do one in a kind of difficult environment. So down here on a section of the land is pretty swampy. It's basically wet all the time down here. If the wood is down, it's soaked. You got to find vertical standing dead wood. So it's a really tough environment, even though it's such a lush area, to really build a fire in. So one of the things I wanted to show you all is some of our stuff that we've got here, get an idea of what this area looks like. So you can see, it is very green. It is green, lush, ferns, soft, boggy ground, very swampy down here. A lot of mosquitoes, a lot of insects. You know, there's some water down here, which is pretty nice. We've got a little stream. And our stream's running pretty low today. Right? It's a pretty slow pace on the stream. So while I'm down here, I wanted to get a couple things. You know, when we're doing the bow drill, we want to make sure we got a good handhold. You can use a wood handhold, and lots of people have, and it's been done for a long time. But I really prefer a nice stone. Right? A couple of reasons. The stone is durable. It's more comfortable in the hand than the wood. Wood's easier to form. But if you can find yourself a nice stone, you know, get one with a nice pit or hole in it, that works out pretty nicely. So I was over here checking out the stream. Since it's so low and running so shallow, I can see all these exposed rocks in the bottom really simply. So I'm going to go through and pick out a couple that maybe fit the hand nicely. Maybe were polished a little bit, get a little bit of abrasion from the running water and other gravel. Now most of the rocks around here, unfortunately, are a type that break off into angles, squares, pretty rough pieces. But I did have a couple finds down here, and I'll show you. This is pretty nice. I've got this one here, and this is the one that I'm hoping to use for my handhold. You can see it's a nice rounded stone. It's got a nice surface on it. I can get a good grip. So all I got to do is get another pointed rock of equal or harder material and drill a little hole, get a pilot right in the middle of there. And that'll be pretty nice to have as a part of my kit to keep with me. Now in that searching, I ran across, I also want to point this one out. I've got this nice stone. Look at this. Square, nice flat surface, right? And it's got a few scrapes on it. Probably can't see it in the video here. But what I've been doing is working with this stone to keep this sharp. And this is a wonderful stone so far. It's getting this tomahawk, which is about razor sharp. So in the process, I'm going to keep this one. I'm going to find another flat stone and grind as flat a surface as I can on there. But just as this thing works, as is, it's got a flat enough surface to really do a good job. So I guess my point in all that is sometimes you're out looking for one thing and you find another. You always got to keep your options open and realize what you need and what you don't need. And packing one little stone like this could be a lifesaver. You know, it's like I always say, your knife is your life. So take care of that thing. I'm going to exit this one here and keep looking for a couple more stones. If I find a little better handhold, maybe I'll use that one. If not, we'll come back in a subsequent video here with the next phases. You know, putting the hole in the handhold, gathering a few materials from this rough area. It's beautiful and it's a lush area. You know, there's water right here. It's easy to do, but you know, if you don't know this water source, you don't know what's upstream. You don't know if you can drink this. You need to get some fire. So we're going to work on that next. So talking about when you're out and about, just see this little fella right here. It's a crawfish burrowing underneath that rock. I don't know if you guys can see him through this video or not. But I'm going to move this rock, and he's going to scurry. There he goes. You see him right there? Look at that. Underneath this one here. There he goes. Look at that fella. Out and about. Now I know they're here. I'm not going to grab him because I don't need food today. But if I was out and about, that's a serendipitous meal right there. Food I didn't have to hunt for. You can't beat that. Some good calories in one of those little fellas. You know, just keep an eye out. When you're walking around, you might run across the things you need. Also, I was pointing out that rock I had. That one I gathered. See that tan spot in the middle? No, it isn't too much. I've only been working on that about 5 minutes. And I'd say I'm probably about a 32nd of an inch through. Doesn't seem like a lot, but in 5 minutes, that's pretty good progress. I just found myself a little bit harder rock here. This one was able to grind right down in there, rinse it off in some water every now and then, and see how I'm doing. It's doing pretty well. Every now and then in these streams, you might be able to find yourself a polished rock that maybe has a hole already bored in it. Sometimes it's worth a little exploration for a bit in order to find what you need. Now I'm making this as part of my kit. This isn't true survival for me right now. This is just skills practice. So having one of these as part of your kit is real nice to have. this right there makes fire starting a lot easier. In an emergency scenario, yeah, I'd be using a wood handle. I would be using what I had immediately. If I found something, that's what I'm making use of. But for right now, I'm just going out to make myself a little bit more of a kit. All right, I'll come back with some more videos and I'll see some more things that are interesting. Well, I don't know how much of this is going to come out on video, but here's that bearing rock that I started with. So you can see it got a pretty good indentation in there. It's, I don't know, it's about 3/16 of an inch deep. It's doing pretty nice. It's about to the point where I would be able to use it, I think, with a little attention to technique there to make sure it wasn't slipping out. But I've got a nice bearing block, and all it really took was another rock. I started out with this one right here, and I kind of used it to scratch and point the initial hole in here. And once I got a hole with that, I'd kind of rock it back and forth, kind of a fashion like this, instead of a drilling. I found the drilling didn't really get a lot of action in there. And a lot like sharpening a knife, I had to keep the debris clean, so I'd rinse it off in the water every now and then, and it cut really nicely. Then I switched off to this rock, basically the same material as this one, but it's got this nice point right on the end here, and that allowed me to really drill in there really quickly. So just putting the two together, pressing firmly, not bad at all. Got a nice hole. And what I've been doing is really just as I walk around, looking at other resources in the area, taking stock of what I've got, I'd be drilling as I walked, and if I stopped to check something out, look around me, I'd pay a little more attention, drill a little bit more. But I'd say in total, I have maybe 30 minutes worth of work into putting that the hole in that rock. So for 30 minutes, for a long-term piece of survival kit, I really think that's a great, great investment if you have the time. So I highly recommend doing it. I'd recommend going and finding some rocks in a near stream near you. Look and see if you can find some that maybe had water wash with already a pit in them, something that fits nicely in the palm of your hand. If not, go on this route. Practice making a few. Get some basic skills down. So I'm going to work on this one a little bit more, and then we'll start assembling the rest of our kit. Start doing some wood identification, looking around in the areas here, and we'll go over those bits. All right, here we are, and you can see we've got quite the hole in there now. I'd say that's I don't know, 1/4 inch deep at least. I think that's going to be plenty enough, as long as we hold stable and steady when we're using our bow drill to hold our spindle. That's a nice one. That fits in the hand nicely, right? Nice grip. Be able to push down with a lot of force without weighing it down. We do this, we'll fill this with some nice fresh greens when we go to start a fire. Give us a little lubrication. Keep from binding up that end of the drill, keep it cool, keep it from grinding away. So now, we gotta find some wood. Well, here we are, and we all know the rule, right? Standing dead timber. Always the nicest, driest stuff in the woods. Great for all kinds of fires, great for everything, except right there you see, we've got a dead pine tree, dead pine tree, dead pine tree. This area is full of pines. You can make a fire with pines, you can make a friction fire. Oh, another dead pine tree right there, back in there. I don't like it, unless it's really, really dead and has been naturally dead for quite some time. You run into the problem of sap. That pine sap lubricates. It's flammable when you have a fire. It's great for starting some things, but for a friction fire, I just don't like it. The pine grinds through too quickly. You burn through your spindle boards, you burn through your spindles. I just don't like the way that it works. So I recommend some harder woods. You can do it with some really hard wood, some oaks and things, but because they're so hard, they don't have enough friction, and you end up grinding for a long, long time. And you don't build enough heat. So what we're going to do is we're going to wander through here, see if we can find a nice standing dead tree, and do a little test. And I don't know if you guys are familiar or not with the thumbnail test, but basically, you want to run your thumbnail along the grain of the wood. And if you can leave a nice long scratch in there, it's soft enough for friction fire. So let's see what we've got. Looking for some dead trees. Dead trees. All right, so here we got this guy right here. Look at that. Long dead tree. Sitting here. Let's pull this off. We're going to run our fingernail. Oh, look at that. Really, really hard. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, if that's going to focus. But I cannot make a scratch in that. And this is an oak, right? Knew that, but wanted to show you guys. So we're going to move along a little bit here and see what else we've got. Oh, there's another Old dead. That one's probably rotted, but let's go take a look. Yeah, this one's really, really rotten. Far, far too rotten. Oh, there's only half a tree here. So, you know, while this might have some good material for starting a fire, yeah, look at that. Look how dry that stuff is. Nice. We'll keep that in mind, you know. A little bit of this moss up here, that's a little damp yet. It's not the old man's beard, but we'll go along. Dee, 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 dee. Looking for a few more dead trees. See what we've got around here. Got another dead oak over here. There's another dead one, standing dead tree right there. Looks like another oak, but I'm not too great with the identification. So we'll come along here. We're going to scrape a little off to get down to this wood. There we go. So we've got a little wood we can access. Let's see what we can do here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I've got a nice fingernail mark in that tree. It's really tough to see at this distance and lighting, but let's see if I can make enough of them. Maybe it'll show up. Yeah, I don't think they're showing up, but this seems to be about the hardness that we'd want to have. And a lot of people like using dissimilar woods, 2 different species, 2 different hardness, whatever. Personally, for me, it's worked well using one. So I'll take this tree, break this thing down. I'm going to split it into a hearth board, and I usually whittle my spindle out, trying to find a stick that is straight enough and dry enough and strong enough has just been always a challenge. So I'm going to go and take this thing down and chop some bits out of it here. So, I'm going to have to just keep stopping and starting the videos like I do. I'm going to have to definitely get a tripod at some point here. Alright, we'll take this thing down and we'll go into a few phases as I go along. Alright, so we got our timber down, our dead tree. Got the trusty tomahawk here, which by the way, I love a tomahawk. It has been one of the most useful. That and my kukri. The combination of those two just can't be beat for survival. Honestly, I can do about anything with those. So, got that. Chopped off a piece, you know, this long. It's about 14, 16 inches long, right around there. And just kind of flattening out one side. I'm going to go down and flatten out the other side for my hearth board. And, you know, give me a nice foothold, something large enough that I can use a few different drill holes. It's not going to die on me right away, run out of space or anything. And flat on each side, so when I'm working on it, you know, stay stable for me. So I want to finish hewing out this side here. Get them as much to a rectangular shape, you know, as I can. And we'll start another video on making the spindle. The spindle I'm going to split out of one of these pieces here. And we'll have to, you know, whittle it down, get it as round as we possibly can, and go from there. So I'm going to go back to tomahawking to get this thing down. Okay, so here we are about 5 minutes later. You can see we've hewn that down to a nice uniform thickness, about an inch. Between 3/4 of an inch to an inch is pretty good. It'll vary depending on the wood. You can see I had some friends that were living in there, had to evict them. But I don't like excessively thick hearth boards, and I've seen people try to make them really thick. And the problem I run into is that when you're accumulating dust to start your fire, you have to accumulate dust the depth of that notch before it's really going to catch in your hole here. So the thicker this board is, the more dust you have to build up, which means more work, more friction, more heat, more energy before you're going to get a coal. So this will give you a little bit longer life, but I would probably even go a little thinner than this, but I'm going to try this wood out first. And if it seems to be a little difficult, a little bit extra work, I'll thin it out a little bit more. But 3/4 of an inch, I'd say roughly the width of your thumb. You know, that's a pretty good size to go ahead and start with. So we got this one hewn out. Now we're going to come along and take this piece here next to the tomahawk. And I'm basically just going to chop a piece off, about a foot long, maybe a little longer. Basically the length of my leg from knee to foot. So I don't know, what is that, 16, 18 inches? I'm a short fella. Who knows? We're going to cut a piece off about that length and split it. And once I split it, we'll go through and I'll just kind of start working it down until it's a round. You know, I don't want to whittle the whole thing, but we'll just go ahead and start on that. All right, next video I'll show you some steps along the way and where we're at. All right, as I was saying, little videos along the way. I really definitely have to get a tripod for this if I'm going to make some more of these for you guys. But one of the things I want to show you is we're splitting that log. I cut it, and what I basically did is I measured from my foot, if I were on the hearth and running the spindle, right, I measured this high, hand down to footboard. And that's roughly the length of that one. Added a little bit, so it has some room to work with. Okay. And now we're going to go through, we want to split that thing lengthwise. Well, you're not just going to swing a tomahawk at something that narrow. So we're going to go and we're going to baton that. So I set it on top and grab this bad boy here and just, you know, holding on to this. Obviously, I didn't have a camera in my hand, but beat this thing all the way down through that stick. So, bam, and there you go. We got some nice split lumber. Now, normally I would have used two hands, obviously doing that, but, you know, one holding the tomahawk and one using the baton. But you can see what we got. So in here, center of that, not real good, had a lot of insect damage in there. You know, it was a long standing dead tree. So like I said, we're going to whittle out a piece out of the side of one of these. Right? And I'll just, you know, figure out which one works better after I chop this a little more. Oh, we can see the termites in there right now. Look at them. We wrecked their home. That's all right. They don't mind. They'll just find somewhere new to live. But, so I'm going to go and get one of those hewn out and come back with a spindle, or at least part way along the process. Okay, so I've split that one out. You know, I split it in half, then I kind of quartered it, and now I've got this stick here, and you can see it's pretty straight. It's got a little bit of a wiggle, but that's why we kind of cut it oversize. This end I'm starting to whittle down for the handhold. And we'll go over here and we're going to round that out for the you know, the hearthboard end. Then in the middle, where the string is going to go, I'm just going to kind of round it out. I don't really need it to be perfectly round, but what I want is pretty much centered, so it's not wobbling back and forth when I'm running the bow against it. But for now, right about where my hand is, probably about, you know, 2/3 of it in the middle, we're going to try and get that fairly round and fairly smooth. But we'll do that, and then we'll size this thing up, you know, get it cut to length, and give it a shot. So when I get it rounded out, I'll bring you guys back here. All right, here we are. Got our spindle made. You can see it's nice, pretty straight. About as big around as my thumb. It's about as thick as I want it. You can see right there. Okay. Got a nice rounded point on this end to go into the handhold that we hewn out earlier, and got my fire making end over here. Rounded it out decently. One of the things I like to do is wherever the string is going to go approximately, I really like to smooth this out. I want just less wear and tear on my string. So if your handhold that you made is gritty enough, right here, you use it like some sandpaper. And holding this, you know, it takes your hand, but we'll just run back and forth and do that. There's also that sharpening stone rock I got. You know, possibility of these, just sand that middle down to make it a little bit smoother. You don't want it really smooth because you want the string to have friction, but you do want to get the nicks and the sharp edges and things where you were whittling, cutting, you know, anything that might grab or cut the string, and get that out of there. So we're going to go do that in just a moment here. But we're about ready to get our bow. So let's go see if we can find a nice bow. Now for the bow, you know, people have their preferences. Some people like dry, dead timber. Some people like living, springy timber. I fall on the living, springy timber side of things. So I like to find something that's got a nice bend to it. Oh, look, hey, deer droppings. That's good to make note of. All right. Find something that's got a nice bend to it. So, you know, I don't have to stretch the string excessively to get clearance. But I also want it to be kind of thick. I don't want to have a very, very springy bow where it's going to have a problem keeping tension. So let's see what we got. We got a nice tree with a crook in it. Right over here. Don't know if I want that one yet or not, though. Let's see what we have. What have we got? Yeah, I think in short order, that one back there might be might be the best thing is what's immediately in my area. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about in a different video, is your zones of assessment. You know, when you're in an emergency or survival type situation, keep your awareness, keep your mind about you, know what you have on you, right in your immediate area, and, within 50 yards. Just do some little immediate zones, but we'll get into another video on that when we're talking about mindset. The survival mindset's really important. It's what'll kill you. The skills, great. You can have all the skills, but if you haven't got the mindset, you can be in trouble. All right, we're going to go and get the tomahawk back, go grab a bow, and come back and we'll start, the burn-in on the board, I guess. So I was talking about looking for a nice bow, and there was one down by the stream there that seemed like it had a nice bend in it. Pretty much a dead tree right there. Didn't want to use hard wood if I could avoid it. Don't like cutting down anything living if it's not, really a survival situation. So walking around doing a little bit more exploring, and I found this branch here that has just come down. Not sure why it came down, but it's broken off at the stump over there. And you can see it's still got some green leaves on it, but this thing is broken. And look at the nice flexibility we get in this thing. I don't know if you can see that or not, but nice flexible branch. All the way down, we got a nice bend in it right here. That'll be real nice for making a bow. I like to have a longer bow. Some people like them short, but I like a longer bow if I can. And I like a moderate amount of spring tension. I don't like a lot. And the reason for that is, when you're over there, drilling away, if you have a lot of spring tension, there's a lot of tension on the bit, on the spindle, to rotate. You're going to put a wrap or two around there, and it really just wants to pull it out of the hole. So any misalignment tends to send your spindle flying. So I like just enough of tension on the bow that you can get a good grip with the string on the spindle, but not so much that it's going to flip it out of there. So as we get going, I'll show you guys a little bit more about that. Okay, so I've got my bow cut, and you can see I shaved the bark off one end just to give me a little bit more comfortable of a hand hold. And up at the top here, you can see we've got this nice little notch, this Y. This Y is going to be great to attach our cordage. You see I got some store-bought cordage here, and we're not talking about making cordage today. This is just about making fire in a very, very wet, very damp environment. So, but this Y is going to allow us to wrap our cordage around there a couple times, just like this. And you can see we've got a loop around and over, so when we pull tight along the length of our bow, right, we're going to double wrap a cordage, and it's pulling in the notch up top instead of, from the bottom of it, like if you just did a overhand knotted loop. So we're going to run this down, but before I wrap this on the end, I'm going to spin this cordage to give me a twisted cord all the way down. Now I don't want it twisted really tightly. I don't want to get a lot of lumps and bumps in it. But I want to double up this cordage to give me two things. One is a little bit increased braking strength, but also when they twist around each other, it's going to give me a little bit more surface area that's going to bite on this spindle. Right? So that'll just help give me just a little bit more catch, a little bit more friction when we're doing this. So I'm going to notch the end of this stick here, go ahead and put this cordage in there, wrap it around, and then I'll come back and show you our finished bow. Alright, here's the end product, and you can see we've got our cordage wrapped. I don't know if you can see that, if it's going to focus on this or not at such a close range. But you can kind of see the little twists and bumps that you get in there, but it's nothing extreme. Down to our handhold. We've got it wrapped down there, right, in there, and you can see the springiness. Okay, there's quite a bit of spring in there. It's not a lot of tension at all. I might even reduce some of that after I put the bow drill in there and see where my spindle's coming out at. But we'll take a look. I'm going to try and find a spot to put the camera where you guys can watch the actual process. And what we're going to do next is take our hearth and just put the small pivot hole in it. We're going to do a burn-in. If you're not familiar with that, that's where you take the spindle and you basically just burn in a hole before cutting a notch in the hearth board. So you're really just forming the hole, getting it smoothed out, getting it ready for the fire making process. So we'll do that, then afterwards we'll cut the notch in the board and start trying to make us an ember. All right. So I'm going to go and find a spot to put this camera, and hopefully you guys can watch all this. Alright, here we go. I don't know if you all remember, but early on when we were looking for the materials for making the hearth board and the spindle, we found what we thought was a good tree, and it ended up being just half a dead tree standing there. Well, I found this nice half, I was able to shave it down pretty smooth here, and this is going to be used to catch our ember when we get our hearth board going. So we're going to just turn this a little bit, and when we start drilling, we're going to use this right here to catch those embers, those ashes and embers that are falling. So we got to go get a hole. All right, so we're see the size of our spindle here. We want to get that close to the edge. We're going to just double check that. Put a mark on here. All right, so now we've got a mark where we're going to put this in at. So let's get a tomahawk. I'm going to just drill out right here. I don't know if you'll be able to see this on camera as I do it. This little hole right where that is. Okay. And it's just an indentation, not a hole. We don't have to drill the whole thing. That's what the burn-in's going to do for us. Here we go. We've got a little starter spot, just somewhere for us to put our spindle on here and get going. So let me get my spindle. And you remember our rock that we made. Okay? So we're going to take and get some nice leathery leaves from around here. The only reason I say leathery leaves, and of course, you know, make sure you know what you're doing. Don't grab some poison ivy. But something like these that have a nice smooth finish to them, they provide a lot of moisture content. And when we start drilling, we're basically just going to use these in the hole to lubricate our hole a little bit. And that'll keep our spindle from binding up. So, got one to start with, got a few more off to the side here we'll use in a second. Okay. So let's get our spindle in the bow. Remember I told you that I might end up loosening the bow on here some. Let me see, this is the first time I'm going to put this spindle in here. So, all right, you see that right there we're getting a little bit of, how much resistance we got putting that in. Okay? Definitely don't want that. That's going to put a lot of tension on the string, more likely to break a string, more likely for your spindle to go flying. So, I'm going to loosen this up some. Remember, your bow only has to have tension on it while the spindle's in there. The rest of the time, you don't need that. So we'll even loosen this up a little bit. Give it room. There we go. I put a nice little notch in the end here so I can wedge this down. Give it a nice hold once it's in there. Okay, there we go. Let's tuck this up underneath. Okay. Excuse me, I got a little bit of the sniffles here today. There we go. Now I got some decent tension on there, but it's not real bad. You can see it doesn't just flip right out, right? Now you see this, look where I'm going. I'm going to bow this way. Look at my string. If I start going this way, the string's going to rub on itself, right? So I'm going to want to reverse the order that I'm putting this in there. Away from me, through the bow, and under. That way, if I start drilling this way and get an angle at it, I don't need to worry so much about it popping out on me. So let's get this. First time I use this rock, so please forgive me if the hole is not deep enough. We're going to find out here real soon. It's not like that shoelace. There you go. Now at this point, we're not going real fast. Oh, my string already broke. Look at that. But, look at that nice burn-in that I got. Boy, usually I use 550 cord. I thought I'd try this brown. It works real good for some things, but apparently not for this. Boy, that broke on me quick. That's too bad. Normally I don't use this type of cordage. I carry this for construction purposes and a few other things. Had it in the pocket, figured I'd try it out. So we're going to have to use some 550 cord, I think. I almost always carry it, but we're going to show you a little something else here. This is a neat way to go about things. So I'm out here, my cordage broke. And I like to use things for different opportunities, different learning. You know, we get a lot of people who panic, don't know what to do. You know, their cordage broke, or they don't have the string they need, they don't have the rope. I always have some in my vehicles, on my motorcycle, my backpacks, my pockets. Pretty much everywhere I go, I've got my knife and my cordage. Okay? But today, I'm trying to start a fire, and as you can see, we just broke our cordage. This was our only means. Boy, we're going to have to try and come up with some cordage, do something else. And I've seen this time and time again teaching classes, over and over again. And we'll have this scenario, and we'll do it on purpose. We'll set this very thing up. And nobody, well, I shouldn't say nobody, very, very few people ever stop to think. Look at that. Most of us out in the wilderness got cordage with us all the time. Don't even think about taking your shoelaces out. We all know how strong a shoelace is, how long it lasts in our shoes. I'm thinking this might do a pretty good job on my bow. So let's go put a little loop in my end. So we'll get a little loop here. Might need to use 2 shoelaces depending upon how long this is. We'll see. Trying to use as little as possible. Don't want to run out of shoelace here. Don't want it too short on my bow. But want to have definitely enough to make the distance. Alright, so there's that. Got a shoelace there. Oh, plenty of shoelace. Look at that. More than enough to make it down to our notch. Wrap around. Really, you don't even need to. You can just pick a spot where you're at. You're going to handhold here anyway. The notch is really nice if you have a high tension bow. But for now, let me just hold it. We'll take a look. By the way, my rock was doing great. Vegetation in there was great. Very little effort. We got a black bottom, well, real dark brown bottom hole here. Let me get that. Get my rock again. Alright, here we go. Let's go to town. I have to tighten this up a little bit. Shoelace doesn't have quite the friction that my other cordage had. I guess that's by design so they can make it slip through your shoes nicely. I guess it'd be kind of hard to tighten a shoe if you had, you know, really tough shoelaces. Alright, there we go. Let's see if that works. Get our bow through here. There we go. Spindle, bow, rock. Oh, there we go. Real nice. There we go. And you see, we're starting to get some smoke. And I don't know if you can see this real well. We've got some brown ash that started building up. Brown means you don't have enough heat. It's a little friction, a little faster, but at this point that's all we need. We got a nice black bottom hole. So we're going to go through. We got our burn in done. Let's get our tools here. And we need to cut a little notch. So, make a little mark, cut in. Turn on the other side, cut in. And what you want is you're going to cut a little pizza pie right out of here, basically. A slice right into the middle. You don't want that notch to be real wide, because the wider it is, the more heat and material you're going to have to capture. So, but you want it wide enough that you can get enough material in there to start a fire. Now, that's great. You're saying, all right, Chad, you told me don't make it too wide, but make sure you make it wide enough. How do I know one from the other? Well, trial and error. That's about it. You're going to do this a whole lot, and every fire-making kit can be different. The woods that you've used, your string material, humidity level, moisture content of the wood, species of the wood, all sorts of things. You can see how we're getting in there. All sorts of things go into what makes your fire.
This is as much an art as it is a science. And you talk to an artist, the block of marble is what the block of marble is. All you do is let out its personality, right? Same sort of thing here. You either work with the material, or the material will work you. Okay, you can see we got our notch. All right, so let's put that down there and see if we can get us a coal. Got to turn a little bit here. I'm running into the log with my bow. I hope you guys can see. All right. Slipping on my spindle. Let me see if I can get a third turn in here. Sometimes you can. Sometimes it helps a little bit, get a little more friction on your bow. But sometimes it's so much that nothing works. Oh, and my string just came loose on the other end. Tighten that up a little more. There we go. Tighten her back up. Get our bow put back together here. Alright. There's that. Grab a rock. Might need to shorten the spindle a bit. I'm at the top of my knee. I'd rather be down a little bit, but alright, we're getting some smoke. Look at that. Now don't stop when you see smoke. You need to fill that hole with ash. And you want that ash to be a real dark brown, almost a black. And you'll be able to tell by the wood you've got, speed you're going, color of the ash, whether you need more force, less force, more speed, less speed. All right, you can see, well, I hope you can. We've got a nice dark pile here, okay? But should have made my board a little thinner. I got to get a large buildup in there before I'm going to get enough for a fire. So I have to grind some more ash. Not quite yet. Still a real thick board. Couple more leaves in our spindle here. Like I said, this is a real wet environment. Even for a standing dead wood, it's pretty damp. Spindle's sliding real good in the rock. Got a little polished up end on it, but nothing bad. I want a little further. I'll be a little further down on my spindle. Or further up, I'm sorry. I was too far down when I was going and kept hitting my foot. Sure you all saw that. Let's go in here. There we go. Got a little smoke in there. Just gonna sit for a minute, let it go. Let's see if we got coal in there. See that smoking? That's a sign you got a coal brewing. Tempted to blow on it, don't. Let the wind do it. Let your hand do it. If you got more than a little wind, stop it. Block it from something. We just want to nurture that thing. Let it grow. Once you see a little orange, an actual glow of a coal, then you're more likely to a spot where you can give it a tiny, tiny baby breath. But not much more than that. There it is. I see a glow. Y'all see it? See, that's why I don't want to blow. If I'd done that earlier, I'd have blown that dust everywhere. But now, I could take this coal, and dump that right in my tinder bundle. Look at that. Look at that thing. I'm not going to go inside and start the fire today. This was just on the technique. I'm sure most of you all know how to start a fire. If not, we're going to have some introductory videos in basic fire construction. Look at that. There we go, folks. Wet environment. You can see how far down I had to drill, though. Look at that. Probably could have cut this board at least 3/4 this size. It would have taken off 25% of my work. But not knowing the material, not knowing how dry it was, figured I'd take the safe route. But I did have to drill through probably 25–30% of this board before I started getting any buildup and any real heat. So if I'm going to keep this kit, which I probably would, it's a good kit, it's proven, starts fire, I'll probably go through and whittle it down a little bit. Either that or whittle down at least where I'm going to start the fires at. Use that. But you guys can see, it's pretty simple to do. Didn't take that long. I'd say all in all, I maybe got an hour worth of work into doing all of this. So from sourcing raw materials, grinding the rock while I walked, the whole deal, not too bad. And you know, we could have skipped the rock if we had to, used a wooden handhold. That would cut a lot of effort and time off, but right here, so long as I don't lose this, I've got this for life. I'll never wear this out. And this makes work so much easier. You don't grind away your spindle. Look at the end of that. We got a little green where the plant material dyed it, and a little color on the end, but that is smooth. It's like you sanded it down. And all it's going to do is heat and get harder and be smoother in this rock. That's it. Yep, look at that. So I'm going to go move this around. I don't want this to stay, so let's put this out. But y'all saw how easy that is. And I still got my shoelace. Pop that off, put it back in my shoe. But I'm going to keep my bow. I'm going to keep my spindle. Now when you're making your fire, great. moving things around, stuff's on the ground. But when you're done, pick these things up off the ground. You'll be surprised how just an extra 10-15 minutes on the ground, how much moisture these can accrue. And if you get moisture in your board, moisture in your spindle, all that's going to have to dry out before you go and start a fire. And that's more work and more time and more effort you have to put in. And the last thing you want when you need a fire is more work, I'll tell you. Well, I hope you enjoyed all that. If you got any input, I'd love to hear it. Comment down below in the video. And if there's anything important link-wise, I'll link on there. Please make sure you follow us and check out our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/prepsetgo. We'd love to have you as friends over there too. Thanks.